On Saturday, Joe left 3 cans of coffee with the doorman in exchange for the magazines I'd been bringing him from work. I didn't want anything for them, but he was Italian, so he loved transactions. Every week, I gave him 5 copies of People and Entertainment Weekly, and he gave them to women on his rounds. He was at the age when a person starts carrying around bags containing pieces of interest clipped from newspapers and coupons and canned tomatoes. Come to think of it, so was I with these magazines. This is how it starts. When I walked in on Monday to the gym, he was sitting at his locker, still red from the steam. I said good morning to him as I went past. "Where'd you eat this weekend?" he said from the next row. "Where'd you go?" "Nowhere, I cooked." "What'd you make, pasta fazool?" "No, I made linguine with clams." "The red?" "No, the white." "What'd you do?" I made my way to the end of the row so I could speak in a normal tone of voice. "Well, Joe, I softened part of an onion in oil with a little butter. I put red pepper flakes." "Parsley?" he said. "Yeah, parsley, then half a cup of white wine, then the juice from the clams." "You used a can? What'd you buy, Snow's?" "Cento." "Oh, you bought the clam sauce?" "No, just the chopped clams." "Oh, I didn't know they made that. I have to look for that." "Yeah, so I put those in about a minute before I drained the pasta and squeezed some lemon juice." Joe frowned, approving. He was applying his facial cream. We were naked this whole time. I went back to my locker and got into my gear. I said, "What about you? Where'd you go?" "I cooked." "Yeah, what'd you make?" "Linguine with clams." "The white?" "No, I made the red this time, with the whole baby clams from the can." "What kind?" "Doxies," he said. "What kind of linguine did you buy?" "Barilla," I said. "You?" "DeCapite." "That's good pasta." "DeCapite's great, but it's $2.50 a box." "They got it at Western Beef, $1 a box." I thought I'd read this next thing just because we're just across the river from Minneapolis. When I was 15, I walked into one of the mall record stores where a harmonica was playing and looked up as though I was in church. You know how you look up by reflex? Just like that. The record, as it turned out, was Blood on the Tracks, and the song was Tangled Up in Blue. I later found out from the words, though I heard instantly in the music, that the record was about the road. It was about a life lived from place to place, person to person, job to job, but ultimately alone. It was about being honest rather than good. It accepted the nature of time and change and imagined life as a series of episodes and entanglements which add up to an idea. The harmonica poured its heart out, and the music glittered like sunlight on the spokes of a wheel or the surface of a stream. That moment was one of those recognitions of how things are and are going to be, and that simple yet vaulting song has been like a church to me ever since. Springtime always brings me back around to Blood on the Tracks, which is about the presence of the past as much as anything. The bare branches down Folsom Street are pricked by a needlework of new leaves, and the blue sky is a color you look into rather than at. Yesterday, a Friday, I played the record before I left the house. I took the train to work and sat outside to read for half an hour. Nearby, there were big white blossoms in a potted magnolia. When I got home, my room was cool with late afternoon shadow, and the sky was bright above the alley. I set an ashtray on the trunk by the window, started Blood on the Tracks, put my feet up on the desk, and let it roll. It was hard to take. These things get harder as you get older, maybe because you realize they're out of your reach. You realize how difficult they were to achieve, how transparent, what a miracle they are. Beauty walks a razor's edge. Someday I'll make it mine. I sat there leaning back against the bookcase and watched the record play out. It opened a window on my past. The past was a room I was looking into, and it was the same as the room I call the present. The things of this room are from the past, the same as my reasons for being here, all of which, the books, the trunk, the room, my reasons, are of the present, too. The past exists on the same plane as the present, with its wives and friends who come and go, and the difficulties of communication, and the permanence of impermanent relations, and vice versa. A few weeks ago, I had a tough conversation with my second wife, one of those conversations in which you can hear how things are and how they're going to be. There are scenes and utterances that'll be with me forever. The guilt I've gotten past. What's still standing, what's harder to accept, is the minor tragedy that both of us are right. There's no turning back. There's no help for it. There's no one to call. There's nothing much to say about it because it just is. And it's always now. When the record was done, I swept and straightened the room and stacked some books on the bare floor. Then I went to a party that the warm weather had engendered as naturally as it brought forth the buds, walking through the dusk, inhaling jasmine so sweet it was sour, and gardenia, and other things I couldn't name. I didn't want to go. I had nothing to say. I didn't want to talk or listen to other people talk. The sky was emptying out. A bright pink contrail, which looked as permanent as a scar, had disappeared without a trace when I looked again. At Lee and Rebecca's, everywhere I turned, there were bottles of liquor and wine and mixers, and there were olive spears and fruit, and everyone was mixing and sipping delicious-looking and civilized martinis in cold metal shakers and Campari and sodas with orange slices and bourbons on the rocks. But my momentary temptation to have a drink was an ember easily stamped out, because it's been a long time already, and I have, hopefully, a long way to go. It frightens me, the awful truth of how sweet life can be. On Saturday morning, I folded up the bed, made a pot of tea, wrote all that while listening to the record again. Then I went to the racetrack. I rode the train to the East Bay and got off at North Berkeley. There I left the station and crossed the road to where a cab driver was standing under a tree. There were 3 riders in his taxi waiting for a 4th. I squeezed in and off we went, handing money over the seat, $2.50 each, the usual silent, brill-creamed party in a blue windbreaker who rode up front, a shrunken man in an old suit and turban, and a sizable woman who said if she won, she was going to buy a new pair of shoes. Berkeley was a few degrees warmer, a month further into spring. We rode through streets of bungalows and yellow flowers in overgrown lawns under the freeway to the bay. At the curb, we wished each other luck and went our separate ways. I took a form, program, and coffee to the grandstand. The morning was spread below me with the Berkeley hills beyond. Sprinklers arced on the infield grass, which was mown in stripes. Slow tractors overturned the dark earth of the track, followed by the water trucks, which cooled it all down. I had a bad day out there. I got shut out of a horse that won and paid $50, and then I had 2 out of 3 horses in the next 5 trifectas. Pete showed up, and we caught a small trifecta that brought me about halfway back. On our way out, he wanted to watch them come around again, so we stopped and waited by the rail. I leaned on the fence, watching a bumblebee hovering above its shadow on the dirt. Funny how quiet it is when they come around. All you hear is the horses breathing, and now and then a whip. Today, a Sunday, I stood in the back door. Blazing sunlight had chosen a white flower and filled it with more light than it could hold before moving on. Around 3:30, I took my laundry around the corner. The shadows were shot with sunlight, and the cool air carried the sun's warmth. Everyone on the street looked a little blinded by the light, like they didn't know what to do with themselves, and they were waiting for it to die down a little. It's taken me 4 years to see that I live on the prettiest street in San Francisco. The trees won me over, the eloquent double row of elms in both directions. Those trees hang fully leafed now, slaves to life, like everyone else. I leave 5 copies of In Style for Joe with the doorman. Joe calls to say he picked them up. I left your package at the desk with Renee. I left you some prosciutto. You didn't have to do that, Joe. It's the Chitterio. You know that one? Sure, it's good. I left 2 packs of it. Why 2? It's a 3.5-ounce pack. You make 1 sandwich. Thank you, Joe. Nice and pink, because the dark red is too dry. I'll use it tonight. The pink is soft. Maybe I'll cut it up in the salad. You have to leave it out. Take it out of the fridge, let it get to room temperature so it's got the full, I like to wait till the fat softens up. Yeah, till it gets a little translucent. Right, he said. Usually I have it with mozzarella, but I didn't have any mozzarella. So I left you a small roll of brie. Joe, it's great, but it's too much. Thank you. I'll pick it up now. I'll be there in a minute. Oh, you're not home? Well, I'm walking from Chelsea Market. I went to buy squid. I'm going to fry it with garlic and parsley. How much? $10 a pound. $10 a pound? Are you kidding? For the local, from Rhode Island, from Spain at 16. My mother used to make it all the time. It was pennies. This was a peasant dish. This wasn't a big deal. Well, this is cleaned and tenderized or whatever. Everything's fancy now, you know that. I used to go to the Fulton Fish Market. They had it 15 cents a pound. When? In 1948? In 1977, the summer of Son of Sam. Lou Salika had a stand there. He was a bantamweight champ, world champ. Ever heard of him? No, Lou Salika, S-A-L-I-C-A. Look him up. He weighed 118. He was only about 5'5". He weighed 118. Not then. By then he probably weighed 135, had a little pot belly. The sweetest guy. Couldn't meet a nicer guy. He used to sell the calamari 10 cents, maybe 15, 2 pounds. He was closing up. The traffic lights went vivid red, then green. The sky had emptied itself of day, but night hadn't come yet. A plane and its trail were enkindled up there. The plane, a scintilla, was so bright and so distinct that it took me a moment to remove it from something small and close up to something large and far away. It made its way in living silence across the sky, an open secret. I was thinking that the only moments that mean a thing to me, like this, or like backing out of a space in a hospital parking lot with the sky and the banged-up flank of a white van, were too quick and evanescent to capture in writing or in any medium, even thought. So why bother? And then I was thinking, and yet, one Sunday I was in a rotten mood, one of my weekend spasms of disgust, hating myself and everything I've written, finding the medium itself crude and ineffectual and tiresome. I went to the Met. I forget why I went there, but I had to walk through the hall gallery upstairs where there was an exhibit of Rembrandt etchings in honor of his 400th birthday. And there were landscapes and biblical scenes and historical tableaux, but the thing that caught my eye was a portrait of his mother, about 2 inches square. It was pen and ink, just a few lines, but the look on her face was so frank, and it was done with such directness and precision and honesty, and with such obvious love for his mother and for the truth of that moment and for the details of the world, that it changed my mood. It elevated me. It was a moment that hadn't escaped. This look that passed across a woman's face nearly 400 years ago. One moment that hadn't gone down the black drain of time. Score 1 for the artists against death. I felt like I wasn't alone. There were artists all over the world and all down through time, and everyone was part of the same effort, trying to capture the flash of a thought, a memory, a moment, whatever was ours to capture in the face of forgetting and death and oblivion. Top of the subway stairs, I run into Tony. He's taking out the garbage, putting new bags in the cans, and then we're standing outside his door. It's late on a spring afternoon, and we're standing there with our hands in our pockets, taking it all in. The people going by, and Kellogg's Diner, and the traffic and the trees in McCree Park, which are new again, and the sky above the BQE. This light, this is the color of And Yet. the color of everything outside what you've decided, outside of what you know. It's like creamsicle blue. It's not even a color. It's not so much a color as it's less a color than a bias. What is it that keeps going beyond the scope of belief and disbelief, illusion and disillusion? It's not hope. It's life, I guess, which is everything except what you think it is. Everything except your ideas of it. It's in the way all your ideas of what should and shouldn't be disappear in the flicker of a chain-link fence moving past you, or a flight of pigeons turning in the sky, or the stones doing rocks off. Any of these can catch you just right one day and contain all you care to invest it with. Each of them is life, all of it, for a moment and never again. Yes or no, that's the question. And then there's everything outside the question, which is life. Sunlight, like the sound of mandolins. We take the Palisades, and there's New York across the river, like it was there all along. And pretty soon we're crossing the George Washington Bridge, through all that vertical air, all that glory, the glory of in-between, the rapture of right now, and the gull-vaulted sky. We come up the bridge, and Gene Clark is playing, and the green treetops are tossing, a canopy of them, down to the Hudson. The car windows are open, and the day is breathing through us. It's a kind of benediction. There are those moments when you come off the upper level and you're circling. You're circling above the treetops with the river spread below you, and you have a moment to reflect on it all before dropping into the chaos and immediacy of experience. How many times had I burst in from elsewhere, circled past the apartment windows of Washington Heights, and gone barreling down the Hudson Parkway, the river rising beside me. I feel that dream of New York again, from before I lived there. Guy changing the oil of a truck on 11th Avenue. Now I don't live anywhere, except my own ribs and skull. Early morning, I heard the rude sound of geese overhead, like the sound of fucking on old bed springs. I woke to the sound of a shovel scraping the sidewalk below. Last night, I walked her to the subway in a blizzard, which was also the year's first snowfall. It snowed upward, went spiraling down the side streets, broadsided you at every intersection. Someone was laughing, but you couldn't look up. Then she was laughing, standing in a drift. She had a certain pure laugh that sounded like life to me. She was able to laugh at herself, and she did it naturally. There was no self-regard in it. And in that laughter, I heard all of life, why we live, even though we suffer, and even though we die, why it's still worth it. Headlights floated by. For a time, a skinny young guy fell in step with us. He was holding the remains of an umbrella over his head. It looked like he walked out of a Roadrunner cartoon. He asked where we were going. When we crossed the road to drop off a movie, I said, "You're on your own." We heard him through the snow, looking for a new friend. He didn't seem to have seen snow before. She said, "He must be from California." I missed her, even with her at my side. She turned me inside out. I felt like my heart was on the outside beating. There was never enough of her. I could never get close enough, never possess her completely enough, as though there were some measure of completeness beyond complete, something beyond now, something in the realm of the imagination. I felt as though maybe cannibalism was the answer, to kill and eat her right there in the snow. She claimed to feel the same, but these things are hard to know. I kissed her at the subway. She was just a nose and a smile encircled by a snowy hood. I told her to hold the rail and watched her down. The walk home was desolate. Outside my hood, it was nearly silent. The only acute sound was the snapping of a plastic tarp on a motorcycle. By the time I made it to my door, my coat and scarf were white. I waited for the elevator with the snow melting off me, missing her, something terrible. Once inside, I locked the door, as though to protect what remained of her presence there. The screens were clotted with snow, and there were 5 inches of it on the outside sill. I hung my scarf and coat and gloves in the shower, dried my hair with a towel, and went to bed listening to the radiator, the room hung with orange snowlight. And this morning, I lay listening to the shovel on the sidewalk, and then silence. My heart was still on the outside, beating, waiting. I'm walking up Havemeyer when I think, I really like a popsicle. Of all things, right? All of a sudden I want a popsicle. I haven't thought about a popsicle in 40 years. Out of nowhere. It's like you're at the mercy of any stray thought. Nixon was president the last time I had a popsicle. But it's a hot day, I quit smoking, whatever it was, I want a popsicle. So I go to a bodega, but they don't have regular popsicles. All they've got is crazy, multicolored confections, part French tickler, part fireworks, or those long frozen plastic things that burn the back of your throat. I just want a regulation, old-fashioned twin pop like when I was a kid. So I go to a supermarket, but you have to buy a box. The smallest box is 12. So I buy a box of 12. And that night I'm lying around watching The Sopranos or something. I eat 6 of them. I quit smoking maybe 3 months before, and you need something to do while you're watching these shows. When I smoked, I could watch 5, 6 episodes back to back. Because you're smoking, you're sort of involved with the action. Cigarettes make you part of the action. You're not just lying there. I can't just lie there and watch these assholes for 5 hours with nothing to do. I need something. Anyway, I ate half the box, 6 popsicles, and the next night, because it's there, again with the TV, I finished the box. And now, because I did it 2 nights in a row, it's like a little routine. I make a habit out of everything. So night 3, on my way home from work, I stop and buy another box of 12 popsicles. I don't know what my relationship status was at this point, that I was free to lie around watching The Sopranos every night, eating popsicles. Maybe I was with June and we weren't seeing each other at night till her divorce came through. Must have been with June because I'd only been able to quit smoking by including it in my compact with her, a good faith gesture. The popsicles I wouldn't tell her about. It's too idiotic every night back and forth to the kitchen. Now I'll have a red one, now I'll have a purple one, sometimes taking 2 at a time so one of them can start to melt while I'm eating the other one because it's better when they soften up a little. So this goes on for maybe a week. Every 3 nights I go to the supermarket, buy a dozen popsicles until I go there one night and there are no more boxes of 12. I cleaned them out. There's only a box of 24. So I have no choice. I buy the box of 24. I cross the line into the unknown, figuring, this is crazy, but it'll last me 4 days. And that night, I ate the entire box. 24 popsicles, back and forth to the freezer, now cherry, now grape, now orange, lying on my back, peering over my belly like a seal with the remote in one hand and a popsicle in the other, and the window fan blowing, take a disc out, turn it over, start another one, and the sticks and wrappers piling up on the table beside the clock with its minute hand going around and around on this orgy of popsicles. You look at a clock during something like this, and you realize you're on your own. There's no one watching, no one in charge. Nothing prevents you from degenerating into madness and savagery except some voice at the back of your mind. Probably by the end I was just trying to get it over with, get finished with The Sopranos and finish off this box so I could, close the book on this whole sorry chapter and get on with my life. Nevertheless, I did eat 24 twin pops in one night. I woke up the next morning with a purple tongue and a rash on both arms. And now I know I can never have another drink. I can never just buy a bag of dope someday for the hell of it, or an 8-ball because I got people in town. Whatever it is, I can't do it. I can never smoke even 1 cigarette without turning into a fiend. I have to just forget about all that and get on with it. Just get on with what's left of my life. Yes, just keep my head down, set off across the tundra. A little wiser, a little older, a little more embarrassed. Because now this is another thing you're capable of, another absurdity. You like yourself a little less. It's like you wash a pet and you see what kind of scrawny, abject little creature has been living under there all this time. It's hard to feel the same about it after. What are you going to do? Get rid of the pet? You're stuck with the pet, like you're stuck with yourself. So on you go. Thank you.